All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for joining us today. This is we took the month of January off, but we're getting back to our monthly best practices with Cliff Karthauser. If you were in my sales team meeting last Friday for my Northern Indiana team, Cliff's going to be covering similar content that he covered with us. So not the repetition is certainly not bad, especially with an hour's worth of content. But I did want to just put that quick disclaimer out there. But Cliff is re-engaging. I think Rick and I are pretty committed to having Cliff continue to pour into our teams. Obviously, Cliff, for those of you who may not know, Cliff has worked with a lot of our top sales leaders and agents across the country for several years now. And as time has gone on, he's entrenched himself more and more in the organization. I will just say that the thing that I really appreciate about Cliff is that he has learned about health markets at a higher level than any other business coach I've ever worked with. He understands what FYCRs are. He knows what tier levels are. He knows what drives successful agents. And candidly, he's helping to drive a lot of the top agents and sales leaders across the country with the good work that he's doing. So he has some content he's put together for today that hopefully will help everybody get a really good start to the new year here. I know we're already in the middle of February, but our contest year ends at the end of the month. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Cliff. Cliff, I gotta grab my lunch here while you're talking. So if you see me chewing,
Sure.
that's all it is. But I'm here to help facilitate whatever way I can. But the floor is yours, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's still morning where I am. I'm on Mountain Time for the next 8 weeks or so before my wife and I transition back to Omaha. So we spend the winter in Phoenix. Some of you are aware of that, and then we cycle back to Omaha about mid-April or so. I've thought a lot about this session because you're coming up on the end of your health markets recognition year for 2023. I guess it ends next Wednesday, and then you turn the page and you start a brand new recognition year. So a lot of my comments today are going to center around what does it take to have a great year, or maybe even the best year you've ever had. So 6 steps to your best year. Before we do that, hopefully you all have the participants guide that was emailed out ahead of time so you can take some notes and everything. But before we get there, I just want to make some opening comments and give you some things to think about before we transition into those 6 steps. And so I want you to write this down. I kind of came up with this yesterday as it relates to goal setting and some of the things that I want to share with you today. And the statement is this: people with good intentions make promises, but people with consistency make progress. Again, people with good intentions, and we all have good intentions, right? People with good intentions make promises, but people with consistency make progress. I'm going to talk a lot about consistency today because it's one of the things you have to have in order to be successful in the business that you're in. So when we think about consistency, we have to ask the question, what's the difference between those who maximize their potential and those who seem to struggle and underperform? Fair question, right? When we think about that consistency, what's the difference between those who maximize their potential and those who seem to struggle and underperform? I don't believe it's their talent necessarily. I don't believe it's necessarily their intelligence. And I don't believe it's who you know. A lot of it centers on this one word, and that one word is grit. When you have grit, you can make it through whatever you're facing, because there's the inevitable ups and downs that this business presents, right? And so when you have grit, you can boldly step towards the goals that you have for this year and focus on the reality that comes with your achievements. We're going to talk a lot about achievements today. But how do you get there? How do you get there? How do you achieve your goals and finish well? You start with today. You start with today. I know all of you want 2024 as we move into this new recognition year next Thursday. Next Thursday's March 1st. I know you all want to be effective and have 2024 be meaningful. I know you all want 2024 to be great, but that won't happen by accident. It won't happen by accident. You need a plan. You need a plan, and the best plans start with your decisions. The best plans start with your decisions because the decisions you make today determine the success and life you live tomorrow. And so I've thought a lot about this, and I think, it's time to declare war on our distractions, because to achieve your goals, instead of choosing between good and bad, why don't we focus on choosing between what's good and what's best? Because it's very easy to choose between good and bad. But sometimes it's more difficult to choose between what's good and what's best. And so I want you to think about it this way. Your enemy doesn't have to destroy you if it can distract you. There are so many distractions that take us off our game. And so the enemy doesn't have to destroy you if it can distract you. And so often the choices that we have to make, they aren't between good and bad. They're between what's good and what's best. So I want you to think about this. I love the word motivation, but a word I love even more than motivation is discipline. And so, but we need motivation. And what does motivation do? Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you growing. And so if I have motivation, if I have the motivation I need to be successful in my business, in my craft, in my trade, then discipline is never a problem. But if I lack motivation, then discipline is always a problem. And so I want you to think about discipline as the bridge. So we're going to cross a bridge, and discipline is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. That's what discipline is. It's that bridge between the goals that you set out to achieve this year and what you want to accomplish. And here's the key with this. You have to cross that bridge every day. So think about, again, discipline is that bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. And do we cross that bridge when it's convenient, when we feel like it, when the spirit moves us, or do we have the discipline to cross that bridge every day? Because that's what successful people do. And there's a law of consistency. I started with a couple comments on consistency. The law of consistency teaches us three things. The first is we need to start with the simple stuff. And so the big mistake a lot of people make when approaching setting goals and starting out and what they want to accomplish is because we get excited. We're going to start a new year. The slate's clean, and we set lofty goals, and we have all these things that we want to accomplish this year. And a lot of times what we do is we take on too much because we're excited, we're passionate, we want to have a great year. And I get all that, but in our enthusiasm, sometimes we attempt too much. And what's the result? Frustration, disappointment, discouragement. So the secret to building motivational momentum in your business is to start small with the simple stuff and then work up. Set some goals. You want to set goals that are going to stretch you for sure, but set goals that are within your reach. And then once you reach those goals, then what you want to do is you want to work up. You want to continue to raise the bar. But we want some successes. We want to start with the simple stuff, have some successes in our practice, in our business, and then continue to work up. Because if we set too big a goals and too lofty a goals, and we take on too much too soon, we get discouraged and disappointment sets in, and pretty soon we disengage. And so it's really, really important to set goals that are achievable, that are going to cause you to stretch, but you can have some small wins to kick your new year off. So number one is start with the simple stuff. Number two is be patient. All things are difficult before they become easy. And so we have to have some patience. And what happens is most people never realize how close they are to achieving that significant breakthrough or that goal because they give up too soon. And so the people who grow and achieve the most are the ones who harness two things. They harness the power of patience and persistence. So step number two, the law of consistency. Start with the simple stuff, be patient, and number three, value the process. One of the best things that you can do is to cultivate the ability to value the process of growth, because it is a process that we go through. And it's so important to set those daily goals, to have a weekly scorecard, and to look into that accountability mirror and be accountable for the things that you really want to accomplish on a week by week basis. So knowing what to improve and how to improve are critical to consistency. So knowing what to do and how to do it are really, really critical to consistency in growing your business this year. But so is knowing why. So is knowing why. The how and the what of your practice will take you only so far. The why is what keeps you motivated long after that initial rush of energy and that burst of enthusiasm starts to wear off. So knowing what to do and how to do it are critical, but also fundamentally knowing why you're in the business that you're in and to be able to answer that question. And so there's two things you can influence when it comes to producing results. And everything I'm giving you now is kind of a preview to what I'm going to get to here in just a minute. But two things you can influence when it comes to producing results. We're going to kick off a brand new year. We all want results. We all want to have a great year. A great year starts with today, the decisions that you make today. So the two things you can influence when it comes to producing results are, number one, your strategy or plan, because we've got to have a strategy and plan for the new year. What's my blueprint look like? That's one thing you can influence. Do you have a plan? And number two is your ability to execute. Now, they go hand in hand. I have people ask me all the time, well, what's more important? My strategy, my plan, or my ability to execute? And my answer is they both are. But I would rather have someone execute to a high degree a very mediocre plan than to have a great plan that they're unwilling to execute. But you really need both. So your strategy or plan, your ability to execute that plan. And so what stands behind execution breakdown? So we start out, we have this great plan, and we have to understand that we've got to execute on. So what stands behind that? What stands behind execution breakdown? There's three things. The first one is clarity of the objective. Am I really truly clear on what I want to get done this year? We have to have clarity around our goals and what we're committing to for the year. So what stands behind execution breakdown? Clarity of the objective. And am I really clear on what I want to accomplish this year? That's one thing. The second is lack of commitment to the goal. I say I'm committed. This is what I want to do. But then all these things get in the way, all these distractions, that rob us of energy. They rob us of a lot of different things. They're distractions we all face every single day. So the things that stand behind my ability to execute my plan at a high level, am I really clear on what I want to accomplish? Clarity of the objective. Two, lack of commitment to the goal or goals. I say I'm committed, but am I really committed? So when I face headwinds, do I stay in the game or do I abandon? Do I abandon some of those goals? And number three is accountability. Are you holding yourself accountable? Because we all have to look in that accountability mirror every single day. And so another word I love is persevere or perseverance. And we need a healthy dose of that in this business. Well, a word that's aligned closely with persevere is persistence. So if the banner is persevere, there are three levels at which how to do that. And the first is commitment. Back to, are we committed? See, commitment will get you to the starting line. If you're truly committed to what you want to get done this year, that's all about the vision you have for your business, your compass. Where am I going? And so commitment is critically important because that's going to get your toes to the starting line. You know, the gun's about ready to go off and we're on the starting line of this year and I'm committed. Commitment's going to get you to the starting line. Number two is consistency. Consistency will get you to the finish line because we have to be consistent in our effort. And so that's the small things, the daily habits, the disciplines that we have to be successful. And the third is persistency. So if commitment's going to get me to the starting line, I know that consistency, being consistent in my efforts, is going to get me to the finish line. But then the third is persistency. That's going to get me all the way to and through the finish line. And it's going to help me when I get through the inevitable ups and downs of this business, the strategies, the values that not only lead me to the finish line, but to the finish line and beyond. So let's open up the page in a chapter to 6 steps, which is when I want to give you 6 steps to having your best year. And again, I know all of you want to have a great year. We all want to have a best year. And so before we talk about what you want to do, let's talk about who you want to become. Who you want to become. And so where do most people start? They start with all the things that they want to do in the new year. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to accomplish this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I call those do goals. These are the things that I want to do and accomplish. Let's start with who goals. Let's start with WHO. Let's start with who goals. Who do you want to become? So based on who you want to become, what do you need to do? Based on who you want to become, what do you need to do? No one drifts to a desired destination. None of us do. We don't drift to a desired destination. We need to be intentional and we need to equip ourselves so we can reach our full potential, because we're not going to drift anywhere. We have to be intentional and equip ourselves. So let's start with number one. And number one is a discipline to start. 6 steps. Number one, a discipline to start. And so if you ask me, what's one thing that you do that has helped you grow? The one thing that has really helped me grow is I add one small discipline every year. And that's really important because so many people believe that success is the result of a few big steps. I tried this and everything worked. Nothing further from the truth. I always say that a small discipline done consistently leads to big results over time. Success is not some big step or leap into the future. Success starts with small steps today. So if you want to be successful, it starts with small steps today. And so I want you to write this down. It's the small things that no one sees that lead that lead to the big results everyone wants. It's the small things that no one sees that lead to the big results everyone wants. They look at Rick and they say, how is this guy getting done what he's getting done? How is he so successful? They don't realize and understand it's all the small things that you don't see that lead to the big results that you want. And so are we willing to do the small things? The things that nobody sees. What they want is the results and the success that you're achieving, but it's all the small things that they don't see, the discipline to show up every day, to show up on time. And so I want you to think about a small discipline that you could possibly add, because what does a small discipline do? It's the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. And again, you cross it, not when it's convenient, not when the spirit moves you, not when it's sunny, and you cross that bridge every single day. So let's start with who first. Who do you want to become? And then based on who you want to become, what discipline do you need to start? What habit do you need to incorporate into your business and into your life? Now, and I want to encourage you here, it doesn't have to be a big thing. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to start really small. I would encourage you to start really small. Back to the law of consistency. Start small, start with the simple stuff, be patient, value the process. That's really, really important. For example, you might say, one of the things I want to do, I want to be an agent, I want to be an advisor that cares more about people, cares more about my best clients, as an example. And so what might you do? Well, you set a goal of writing one note of encouragement or appreciation each day you're in the office. You pick out a customer, a client, and you write a small note to them. We've gotten away from all of this. People don't write notes. We've gotten away from that. The power of a handwritten note to one of your best clients saying, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the trust and confidence you've placed in me. And I've been thinking about you today, and I just wanted to drop you a quick note in the mail. Now, you're not writing 10 notes a day. Start small, start simple, start with one note of it. That's just an example. One note of encouragement or appreciation. Because your best clients and your best customers need to hear from you. And I'd hazard a guess that they may need to hear from you more than they're hearing from you. And so we want to retain our best clients because they're a referral source. And you can build advocacy with those people. Now, you might say, I want to become more focused this year. One small discipline. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm kind of scattered in the approach I have to my business. So the first thing every day, prioritize 3 things that you promise to accomplish that day. Not 5, not 7. Again, start simple, start small. 3 things that you commit to accomplishing. So again, start small. The small disciplines you start with and stick with, what do they start to do over time? They start to compound, right? They start to compound over time, and they make a big difference in your personal and your professional life and your growth. So the first step is, again, a discipline to begin with. So think about your year and what discipline might you start this year that will contribute to the success that you want to enjoy and achieve this year. I'm gonna stop at the end of each one of these steps just to get a comment, a question, a thought. If you need me to clarify anything, I'll do that. And I'll stop at the end of each one. Before I move to discipline number 2 is the courage to stop. Anybody have a thought, question? Silas, if you could unmute if anyone has a thought or a question on anything I've covered up to this point, I'll take that now.
One quick thought I had was you had mentioned that phrase, and I forget exactly what your phrase was, but it made me remember one of my favorite phrases, and it's simply, people are rewarded in public for what they practice for years in private. I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. That's because when we look at successful people, a lot of times we wonder how are they producing 500, 700, 800,000 FYCRs in a year's time, or whatever that might be. How are they continuing to grow this business? We look at that, and we're not seeing what's behind the curtain, or all the things that they're doing, small things that we don't see that they're doing that contribute to the success that they're enjoying. Because everyone wants to be successful. Most people aren't willing to pay the price to get there. And I'm talking to, and I respect and appreciate Rick and Silas so much for giving me this opportunity to get to know some of you on a deeper and a more meaningful basis. is I want all of you to have an incredibly meaningful and successful year this year. However you define that, because we all define success a little bit differently. So whatever that definition is, it's there for you. I want you to know that you can accomplish more than maybe you ever thought possible. And people out there need what you do. They need you, and they need what you do for and with them. So anything else come in to the queue or anything, Silas, any other question or comment? I won't put anybody on the spot. I see a lot of names, but I promise I won't put you on the spot.
Not yet. Cliff won't. Maybe I will. No, I won't. So, no, I don't see anything else in the chat box right now, Cliff.
Okay, let's go to number 2, the courage to stop. So we need a discipline to start. We also need the courage to stop. What do I mean by that? Well, as an agent or as an influencer, and you are influencers, right? You have to think about yourself. You have the ability to influence a lot of people. What you want to do is you want to go up. You want to rise. And so to go up, sometimes we have to let go. To accomplish more, we need to do fewer things. Now that may seem counterintuitive, right? Well, to do more, I do less. To do more, I do fewer things. The key is not doing more, but doing more of what actually matters. What are the things in my practice that are going to really move the needle? I need to do more things because, again, we're all doing a lot of things that we probably shouldn't do. But we're creatures of habit. We get into these patterns. And so I want you to look at your business as we start this new year and ask yourself, are there things I'm doing that are not contributing or that are not contributing to production or me being productive, or they're not maybe creating wins? And ask yourself, well, why am I really doing these things? Because we all only have a finite amount of time. And so what you need to do is have the courage sometimes to stop. So I want you to focus your energy on the things that have the highest return as it relates to your business. So so as we start this new year, are there some things that I should actually stop doing? Or ask myself the question, why am I really doing these things? Silas, you have a comment or a thought on that? We talked a little bit about that last week when I met with your team.
Yeah, I think my comments last week were more around delegating and giving things away to people. I think Ken Fazzola, who was president and CEO of our organization many years ago, he talked to me at one point in my career, and this is when I hired my first assistant, and he said, you need to make a list of everything that needs to get done in a day, from most important to least important in your business. Then you need to draw a line where above that line, you're the only person that can do it. And then everything else below it, you got to give it away. You got to delegate it. And that's one of the hardest things. I know a lot of you on the call are control freaks like me. So it's a very, very difficult thing to do, to give things away. But I know you've got some additional commentary on that and some of the metrics that you should be looking at with that. Somebody doesn't need to be perfect at doing something before you should probably be giving it away, right?
Yeah. You set me up there. That's a great setup to number 3. And so if one's a discipline to start and 2 is the courage to stop, number 3 is a person to empower. Because if you don't empower others, Silas and I have talked quite a bit about this. If you don't empower someone else or others, you will become the lid inside your practice or inside your organization. You'll become the lid. And so it's really hard to build something great alone. Now, some of you on the call are maybe new in your career with health markets, or you're just getting started, or you're in that first year. Some of you have been doing this for a number of years. So your team obviously may look different depending on where you are, how long you've been in the business, et cetera. But I'd like you to ask yourself this question: what can I give away? What task can you give to someone else? And then who can you give it to? because over time to grow a practice, you can't do it alone. You've got to invest in a staff, somebody to help you, a support person. Maybe it's a sub agent at some point in time. It's really, really hard to continue to build and build and build and do all this by yourself. Because when you're doing it all by yourself, you're not paying yourself nearly as well as you should be paying yourself, because you're doing a lot of things that someone else should be doing on your behalf. And so that number 3 is a person to empower. So ask yourself, what task could I maybe give to someone? John Maxwell, and Silas touched on this, who's one of the greatest leadership writers, authors, consultants in the world. I mean, John's probably 75, 76 years old now, written over 100 books. He said, if someone can do something 80% as well as you, delegate it to them. And I challenged Silas on this 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, maybe. I'm going to take that to another extreme. If someone can do something 50% as well as you, who has upward momentum, with you see potential in them, that you trust, that you can train and develop, give it to them. And Silas about fell off his chair when I said, if somebody can do something 50% as well, why would I give something to someone if they're only 50% as well as me? Dude, because that seems almost crazy that I would do that. Here's why I say that. And again, that's kind of an extreme statement. If they can do it 50% as well as you, here's what will happen. Because one day they will exceed your expectations. And so what are we going to do? We're going to take one responsibility. We're starting a new year, 6 steps. We're going to take one responsibility, and we're going to trust someone to oversee it, someone to accomplish it. And here are 4 things that will happen when you empower the right person. 4 things. I'll guarantee you these 4 things will happen. Number 1, they feel valued. So when I trust Jeff and I give him something to do as part of my practice, as part of my team, how does Jeff feel? He feels valued. Oh my gosh, Cliff trusts me to get this done. We're a team. So he's going to feel valued. Number 2, they're going to grow in their leadership. Jeff, whoever you give, they will grow as a result. Number 3, you're free to focus elsewhere. And number 4, your team's going to become stronger. You can't do it by yourself. Nothing great is accomplished alone. Those 4 things will happen. The potential of your team does not rest in your ability. The potential of your team rests in your ability to empower others. And you start, if you're new, if you're in your first year or 2, maybe that starts with a part-time person. I'm going to bring a part-time person into my business, and I'm going to identify the tasks, the responsibilities that I'm going to train, develop them to do, because it's going to free me to be more client-centric. It's going to free me to prospect more, to be in front of more people, to tell my story, to close business, to write applications. It becomes exponential. You add a person, even a part-time person, it's not 1 + 1 becomes 2. It's a multiple of 2. But sometimes we're fearful. Man, I really can't afford to do that. That's going to cost me money. All of these things get in the way. But the biggest investment you will ever make is on your business and on yourself. On your business, on yourself. Team dynamics are so important to achieve order, to scale up, to scale your business up, to be more consistent, I talk about the 3 Ps: practice, process, and people. They all tie together. That's your team. And you may start with a part-time person. Some of you have full-time support. Maybe you have a sub-agent or two. If you've been doing this for a number of years, you're not doing this just by yourself. And so my team, have they bought in? Have they bought into the vision, to the goals, everything we want to accomplish together? Have they bought in? Do they have a sense of belonging, and purpose in what they do? You have to help them with that when you hire that first person in. And, are they messengers? Are they carrying the same message as I am? Because some of your staff will interface with your customers. They will have customer contact. They will interface. Do they have the same message? Are they messengers with that same message as you are? And so what you want to do is you want to create an empowering team and an empowering culture within your team. What are their dreams and aspirations? Do you know? Are you asking those questions? You want to create an environment where the team wins together, because it is a team approach. It's not about me. It's about the team. It's about what you want to build within your practice. I'll stop there for a second. That's number 3. You need that person to empower. Anybody have a thought, question on that? Rick, Silas, whoever. Any thoughts on that? Does that make sense?
I could add something, Cliff.
Sure, Jeff.
So I have a part-time assistant, and I'm really bad at like Excel and like detail stuff, like I'm really good at other things. So I empowered somebody who had the skill sets I don't have.
Right. And that's what I mean by 1 + 1 becomes a multiple. Because what you want to do is you want to hire people that have a complementary skill set to you. The things that you don't well or do well, or the things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, that you can offload to them. Any other thoughts or comments on that one, a person to empower? If not, we'll move to number 4. Number 4 is you need a system to create. And I know all of you have systems, but I want you to look at those systems. What is a system? At its core, a system is how you accomplish your what. You all know what to do and how to do it, but a system brings efficiencies to your business. At its core, a system is how you accomplish your what, how you specifically get things done within your business. And so many of the problems we have, they're systems problems. We haven't created the right system to bring about the right result. And so we have to acknowledge that we either have a system by design or by default. Now, you don't want to have systems by default, because you're going to have so many things fall through the cracks. So we want to design the appropriate systems to what? Produce the results that we want. So what is your system? At its core, a system is the result of what you created or what you tolerated. Sometimes when we have bad systems, we're tolerating, right? We want to create the right systems. So again, a system is the result of what you created or what you tolerated. So if you want a better outcome, create a better system. If you want better outcomes in 2024, as we roll into this new year, we need to make sure we have the right systems to run our business. Healthy systems do this. They bring productivity and efficiency to your business. Healthy systems bring productivity and efficiency to your business. What is your time worth? Where do you allocate your time? Where is the lift in your business? That's where you get scale and leverage. And you need systems to get scale and leverage. Great systems bring efficiencies, which will give you that lift, and it'll allow you to scale up. Again, the greatest investment you can make is working on your business and on yourself. The mistake, and I've been at this for 4 decades, the mistake many, many agents make is they allocate all their time immersed in the whirlwind of their business, in their business. They're running from here to there, and they're operating with from chaos, and a lot of times the focus is on all these urgent things, and I get that. But you're head down, you're running hard, and the majority of your time is immersed inside the whirlwind of your business, which leaves very little time to work on your business or on yourself. And so I'm going to encourage all of you to carve out a small percentage of your time this year to work on your business and on yourself, which is what we're doing today. You're not writing a policy or an application right now. You're working on your business and on yourself. And over time, these things will pay off for you in a big way. Because if you don't have the discipline to carve out a small percentage of your time, you'll never have it. Because everything else, there's all these other things that'll always get in the way. Critically important to work on your business, not just on yourself, or on yourself and on your business, not just immersed in it. The biggest benefit when you do this is plateau avoidance. Because if you don't work on your business and on yourself, you will hit a plateau, you will hit a ceiling of complexity, and you won't grow beyond it. Because you're not investing in the growth and the development of getting better at what you do. Silas, you have a thought on that?
Sorry, gotta get over to my mute button. No, I think you're hitting the nail on the head with a lot of these comments. I don't know if I have anything significant to add to it, but no, I think you're spot on.
Do you see a lot of agents spending the majority of their time in their business and not enough time working on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we struggle with, and I see with agents, is it's so easy to look at working on your business as fluffy or non-productive, or agents who are successful shooting from the hip don't need to do that. They don't need to plan. One of the biggest frustrations that I have working with even successful agents is oftentimes they don't see the need to plan. They don't see the need to track. They don't see the need to be accountable on what they're trying to do to themselves or to someone else. And they just continue to shoot from the hip, and in many situations get fairly good results, but it's from my perspective, I just know how much that planning, that accountability, that tracking, if they were to do that consistently over time, how many levels they could elevate their practice. And that's sometimes what I think is missed is, we've got agents making $150,000, $200,000 a year, really doing well and very comfortable with where they're at. So they're not willing to engage in some of those processes. But they could make $500,000 if they just engage in the right process.
Right.
And build it right from a planning perspective. So I would say as a leader, that's one of the frustrations that I have is people not seeing how valuable that can be.
Yeah. And in a word you mentioned there is comfortable. And I've been at this so long, and that I have people say, well, what's wrong with being comfortable? And my response to them is nothing if you want and accept the status quo. And so if you don't want to grow and you don't want to, there's nothing necessarily wrong with being comfortable, but you're one step. If we become too comfortable, we're one step away from complacency, in my opinion. And when I say, to me, complacency, comfortable is a good word. People would not view the word comfortable from a negative light, but many people would view the word complacency from a negative light. And so if we become too comfortable, we're not growing and we're not stretched. And so all of you on this call today, you're investing in your business and you're investing on yourself, or you wouldn't be here. But why aren't there 2 or 3 or 4 times the number of people on this call? there's, and I've talked to Rick about this. I've talked to Silas. I want more, and all of you have influence with your peers. They will listen to you. They may listen to you more than Silas and Rick. But why do we have 18 or 20 or 20, whatever the number is? Why aren't there 50 or 80 or 100? I don't know. People become comfortable. I don't need that. I'm not going to, all these things that stand in the way of, of growth and progress. So I appreciate immensely you guys carving out an hour to be here today, because you're investing in your business and in yourself. Not a better return. Number 5, you need a relationship to initiate. Someone once said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Your relationships matter, and they matter more than you could ever imagine. So if you want to grow, spend time with people stronger than you, and you're going to rise as a result of that. But here's the problem. So many of us primarily spend time with those who ask for our help or ask for our time. In other words, when it comes to our schedule, we're responding. So I want to encourage you, when it comes to spending time with the right people, with others, don't just respond, but initiate. Initiate. Because most of the time we're responding to the requests of our customers. They call in, they've got a question, we're responding. They send an email, we're responding. We're responding. And we have to do that. But when we're always responding, we're playing defense. When we're initiating, we're playing offense. So decide who you want to spend time with and put those people in your calendar first. Reach out to someone who will stretch you, who will challenge you, who you can learn from. And so sometimes we feel stuck. We may feel stuck in where we are, and I'm not sure what to do. And how are these people doing these things? Pick up the phone and call them. Find someone several steps ahead of you that you can learn from. Because if you find someone a couple steps ahead of you, you're going to find tweaks that you can make. If you find someone several steps ahead of you, you're going to see leaps of difference in how they think. Those people will stretch you, and you can learn from them. And so it's so important to think about initiating a relationship that as we start this new year. Is there a relationship that I could initiate with someone? Maybe it's another agent, maybe it's a sales leader, maybe it's someone outside of health markets that will help you grow and develop. They'll challenge you. They'll cause you to stretch and grow how you think about things. And so that, again, that's one of these 6 steps. And I want you to think, is there someone, is there a relationship that you could initiate? Or if you have a relationship, could you go even deeper with that relationship? And number 6, you need a risk to take. You need a risk to take. No one ever achieved greatness or success by playing it safe. If you want to change who you are, simply change what you do. So wherever you are in your development, some of you are maybe in your first year, you're getting started. Some of you are maybe 3-5 years into this. Some of you are, many years beyond that. Wherever you are in your development, now is exactly the right time to take a risk. And so I want you to think about this. Take risks when you're getting started, and some of you are. Why do I say that? Because if you want to grow, you have to. You have to take some risks if you want to grow your business. You're on the front end of this. You're at the base of the mountain and you're just getting ready to take this incredible journey. You've got to take some risks. You want to take risks when you're growing and when you're stretched. And that would define where some of you are. You're growing, you feel like you're overwhelmed, you're stretched. Why do I say you need to take a risk there and then? Because if you have to in order to get to the next level. So when you're growing and when you're stretched, and that would define where many of you are, you want to take a risk right now because you have to if you want to get to the next level. And you want to take risks when you're strong and when you're thriving. And that would describe some of you. Well, if I'm strong and thriving, why would I want to take a risk? Man, I got it made. I'm crushing. Why would I want to take a risk when I'm strong and thriving? Here's why. Because if you think the same things are going to work forever, you're kidding yourself. So we've got to even take risks when we're strong and thriving. Now, what you don't want to do is take a risk with what's working. Because you have a lot of things that are working well. And so you don't want to risk the things that are working great, but you want to anticipate. You want to anticipate what's coming, and you want to take some risks towards the future. What theory, what hunch, what idea do you have? Well, now may be the right time to take that risk towards the future. And so I want you to write this down. I shared this with Silas's team last week. We need to stop being afraid of what could go wrong, because most people are afraid of what could go wrong. Those things paralyze us. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start being excited about what could go right, because most things will have a way of working out. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong. Start being excited about what could go right. Now, you may say, Cliff, there's this risk I want to take. I want to take this risk, but I'm not quite ready. I'm just not quite ready. Here's the deal. If you wait until you're completely ready, you will always be too late. If you wait until you're completely ready, you will always be too late. So I just want to challenge you to think about, what risk should I or could I take this year that's going to move the needle, that's going to move the ball downfield? And am I willing to take that small step? Have the faith to take that small step, to take that small risk to move my business in the right direction. What's the trajectory of my business? You want that to be going forward. And so I'm gonna stop there. We've got about 5 minutes or so. I'd love to hear from some of you. Take a question, a comment, anything that's on your mind that as we get ready to roll into this new year. Anybody have thoughts, questions, comment? Open it up for that. We've got a few minutes. Could be anything I've covered or anything else for that matter. Don't be bashful.
Hi, this is Stephanie. I'm new, so thanks for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here. I just wanted to say you were talking about like kind of like the leadership, and to me, like you all as a leader, it is, and goes for any job I think that I've ever been in, but I've always wanted to train my replacement. So if I want to grow, I have to be willing to delegate and give things to other people, or else I'm not going to grow. But in turn, like you said, it's making them grow as well, which is going to give you a strong team.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And when we look at leadership, a lot of times people default to a title or a position or something like that. I want all of you to realize that everybody in this meeting today is a leader. Leadership is not a position, it's an activity. It's how you carry yourself. It's the influence that you have with your customers, your clients. And people don't care what's on a business card. They don't care what office you may occupy, the corner. None of that stuff matters to your customers and clients. Leadership and influence is a choice that you all make every day. It's a choice to serve, right? And we're in a service profession. It's a choice to serve others with or without any title. And so, I want all of you to think about yourself as leaders. So Stephanie, thanks for that. Any other thoughts or comments on any of those 6 steps? Todd, do you have any thoughts, comments? Jamie, I see your names. Katie, don't be bashful. We got 2-3 minutes left. Silas and Rick, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars on these monthly calls. I want you to get your money's worth.
Well, this is Stephanie again. I talk a lot.
No, you're
But I
good.
also agreed with your number 5 is
Number,
the relationship and reaching up to people, because people that are above you always want to help you get to where they're at, and they'll give you ideas. So I
yeah,
always I never complain down to anybody. If I
yeah.
have like an issue, I go up so I can see like, how do I solve that problem?
Stephanie, you know what happens when you complain down anyway, right? Nobody listens. So
Yeah, yeah. Or they're
yeah,
like, oh, they drag you further down the rabbit
yeah,
hole. And
yeah.
I don't like rabbit holes.
Yeah, we all want to grow. We all want to get better at what we're doing. And what I started with today is just I do a lot of writing and in my, get by myself, and it gives me time to work on my business. Because when I'm with all of you, we're in the business, I'm in the business now, but I have to write and carve time out to do certain things, right? And so I'm thinking, people with good intentions, because we all have good intentions, right? People with good intentions make promises, but people with consistency make progress. We need to be consistent. In my 4 decades in the industry, one of the things that I found separated our very best advisors and agents from all of the rest, because everyone, back to that execution, we need a plan, we need a blueprint, but then we also have to be committed to execution. Every single one of our agents and advisors, and I had about 200 in my organization over 6 states, they all executed, but the very, very best executed on a consistent basis. Others executed, but it was inconsistent. And the difference between consistent execution and inconsistent is exponential in a year's time. And so those people, as I'd work with them and mentor them and coach them, this business is simple, but it's not easy. It really is fundamentally pretty simple, but it's not easy. And it's not easy because most people are unwilling to pay the price. And we do have to, and part of the price we have to pay is consistency in our effort. So if we're consistent in our effort over a long period of time, the results that it will produce will be greater. Time for one more. If nobody has any, we'll wrap it up. But any other thoughts or comments or questions?
Ronnie Bell asked, what type of a planner do you use?
I've stayed with the same planner, and I'm kind of an old dog in this game, but Stephen Covey is I was able to meet him on multiple occasions. He's no longer with us, but he wrote many best-selling books. Probably the most famous was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I still use my Covey planner, and I use my phone, and I'm not a great technology person because I'm too old to be as good as a lot of you are with technology. So I have my phone and my everything into my phone, but I defer to my daily planner, which is I write the notes and schedule the appointments, and it's just work for me over many years. So if it's it still works to this day. So that's what I use. It's out of the Stephen Covey Institute out of Salt Lake City, but that's what I use.
The one last thought I have, and I shared this with my team last Friday, but I've got 5 full-time assistants to work for me today. One of them has been with me for over 10 years. And this last year, she just crushed it. I felt like she stepped into her role like she never has before. She was like laying track in front of me and cleaning up messes behind me. And it was just awesome. And I asked her in our review a couple of weeks ago, like, what was the difference? What was so different this year? And I got to credit Cliff because he had challenged me around just giving her more authority to do what she can do and then stop micromanaging. And at one point, not too long ago, Cliff, you literally told me I was the lid on my deal because I was holding other people back. And there's probably a lot of truth in that as a control freak. And so it was just, I don't know, it was very rewarding for me to have Christy you know, be in that role and be able to tell me I did better this year because you stopped trying to micromanage everything and you let me do what I could do. And
Yeah.
it just like on the back end of that, I'm like, oh, that was so much easier for me too. Like, not only did we get more growth and everything good happened, but honestly, it was just less stress on my part to not have to micromanage her either and just let her do her thing.
Yeah.
So I just encourage any of you that are holding someone under you back or thinking about that, like, just let them do their thing. Great people are going to succeed. And if you let them roll underneath, you know, your umbrella, it can be big thing for both of you.
And when we delegate back to, they feel valued, number one, but number two, they're going to do everything in their power not to let you down. That's the other part of it. They don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to disappoint you. They feel valued, but they're going to do everything they can not to disappoint you. So I know we're out of time. Thanks, gang. Again, we'll have a great lesson next month. I think we're going to talk about that. I'm not sure exactly yet, but we'll have a meaningful content. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate, I appreciate Rick and Silas's partnership and all of this. So go out and make a great day and have a great rest of the week. We'll
Hey,
be.
Cliff, we appreciate you being here, and everybody who engaged today. I just give you kudos and thumbs up on engaging. Like, this is half the battle, right? Just engaging and immersing yourself in these kinds of opportunities. So appreciate y'all being here. Take care.
Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
week, everybody.
Thanks, Cliff.
Yep.
Appreciate
See you
it.
guys. Thanks,
Take
Rick.
care.